I've got a lot on my mind. I always have. My mother likes to tell stories about what a smart young kid I was. All I remember from them was when I was young was being constantly irritable and angry and not having many friends. I like to think of them as endearing quirks. Not many people do, though. I'm not sure why. Though I love my mother dearly, I often wondered how much I was affected by her habits. When I was in my mother's stomach, my mother would sometimes smoke and drink. Perhaps that's the reason for my apparent anomaly. See, I've always known that I wasn't like other kids, and not in a good way. At school conferences, teachers would always say to parents, "Your son is very likable and smart, but he seems to have trouble relating with the rest of the world." You see, I had trouble grasping social cues and responding normally the way any other person would. Even though I could never seem to understand how people worked, I could understand how trains worked. I developed a couple of extreme, specific interests, or as my teachers would kindly put it, obsessions. I could talk about trains for hours without ever realizing that I had bored away the listener 3 hours ago. Because of this, coupled with my trouble showing emotion, reaction, and empathy, I was never quite able to establish many very close friends. When I was 22, my mental health started to get worse. Not only did I begin to have trouble talking with other people, I also began wanting to spend more and more time alone. The few times I went out with my friends, they would lecture me about how I should slow down when I was talking or ask me to repeat myself a lot. I got mad at them when they did this, and they slowly began to hang out with me less. I had less friends than I ever had in my life, which wasn't very many to begin with. This is a point in my life where I began to see these floating rings in the sky. They weren't there the whole time. Sometimes they would disappear for a moment. One time, I told my dad about the rings and he got really worried about me. Later that day, he asked how I was doing living on my own. We had a really long conversation and I ended up agreeing to move back in with my parents. I kept on seeing the rings for 6 more months. After these 6 months, I had to go see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist listened to me and said that I had schizophrenia, judging from the recent hallucinations and reclusive behaviors, and Asperger's because of my lack of social skills and niche interests, among other things. The psychiatrist prescribed me a combination of antipsychotic drugs and asked me to come back to therapy on a regular basis. I was also put into a program which incorporates a variety of different forms of therapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, controlling emotions and behaviors, and especially group therapy. Today, group therapy continues to help me develop my social skills, including empathy and picking up on social cues. Though the psychiatrist said both Asperger's and schizophrenia are not curable, over the years I've learned how to manage my quirks.